Prepare yourself to be blown away by the seismic sounds and scrutiny of Aftershocks Podcast with Chris Aiken and Matt Hartnett.
All right, go ahead, Matt.
All right, here we go. Aftershocks number 13. Matt and Chris here with you, and our guest today is the mastermind and bassist behind two heavy metal supergroups, the first one being the all-star studded Metal Allegiance, and he's here to talk with us today about his other supergroup called BPMD, which features Overkill frontman Bobby Blitz Ellsworth, Violence and ex-Machine Head guitarist Phil Demmel, and of course drummer extraordinaire Mike Portnoy. And their debut release, American Made, comes out June 12th on Napalm Records. Mr. Mark Menghi. Mark, man, thanks for coming on, man. How you doing? I hope you're not going to stir crazy there in the quarantine.
Hey, man, I appreciate those kind words, guys. And it's funny, people call it supergroups. That term still makes me feel a bit uncomfortable because I still feel I have no business writing or performing with some of these dudes and ladies. And I'm definitely humbled by that, so thank you.
Yeah, sure, of course, man. And so BPMD, the new record, American Made, you got 10 tracks on there, all covers, 70s American classics from the likes of Aerosmith, Nugent, Skynyrd, etc. But the ones, that stuck out to me were the 3 songs you guys did from the proto metal masters of the 70s, the Mountain song, Blue Oyster Cult, and the always underrated and underappreciated Cactus in their song Evil, which I just heard that this morning, man. You guys do great justice for that. It's great. And those, 3 bands obviously are much lesser known compared to some of the bigger names that, I just mentioned. And I originally assumed that, either yourself or Portnoy picked those ones out because you guys are from Long Island. All 3 of those bands are from Long Island. So
you didn't.
I know you did. Exactly. The other 2 guys did, man. So when you guys put together this project, I mean, how easy or difficult was it to pick the songs? I mean, was it simply just like everyone kind of picked a few and just decide to roll with it, or did you guys kind of bring them all to the table and then just figure out from there what to do?
Well, let me backtrack a minute. My younger son, Anthony, he's 8, and he kind of put this idea in my head. Saturday Night Special was playing on the radio. I was hanging out in my backyard, and he's like, "Dad, you guys should play this." And I initially thought, this is not Metal Allegiance material. And I love Skynyrd, don't get me wrong, but it's kind of established what MA is, what we do, how we write, what we play, etc. Basically a glorified thrash band, if you will. Mm-hmm. But when he said that, I started hearing these things in my head. If I were to play this song, what would I do? What you hear on our version of Saturday Night Special is what I would do. And when I asked Blitz about doing this, he's like, "Dude, I want to do Mountain and Cactus." And all of a sudden we said, you know what? Let's do an American-made record. He said that. So that's where the title came from within that first minute conversation, American-made. All right, let's only do American bands from the 70s. All right, cool. Then we get Mike and Phil on board. Then we set the ground rules of it has to be American-made, all-American band, and it has to be released in the 70s. And we each get to pick 2 songs, but we can't argue those songs. So if Phil picked 2 songs, I have to do them, and vice versa. And so that's how we kind of went about it. And we each picked our 2, and then we had 2 community choices, which was American Band and the James Gang Walk Away.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
Very cool, very cool. Yeah, I mean, obviously it's a reference, the American-made title there is a reference and sort of a salute to the great history of American, hard rock that came out of that, 70s era. I mean, it's hard not to listen to these songs and kind of remember, a time when hard rock, just rock in general was on top of the world here in the States. I mean, it was the number 1 selling music by a mile, where these days, much different story. Rock has officially been dethroned as a top selling musical genre. I think it's by hip hop or EDM or something. But also, I mean, a band like Imagine Dragons now is considered rock. I mean, it's fucking ridiculous. So, I mean, and even metal to a certain extent has gotten soft. It's gotten kind of safe and stale. And, it's not edgy and, dangerous like it was when we were kids. I mean, I remember growing up in New York and, everyone, I knew all had Twisted Sister logos written all over their binders and notebooks. I mean, it was, there was so much energy and buzz, just rock in general. So, I mean, and you just talked about, having the conversation with your son. People also don't realize, right, how hard it is to get kids into rock and metal these days with all that other stuff always right in front of them on the computers, on the video games and everything. So, I mean, did the idea for BPMD, did it revolve really around, like, obviously wanting to showcase the roots of the younger, of the metal to the younger generation of fans? And, there was sort of like a bit of a history and appreciation thing that you guys wanted to do, or was it just simply, let's just do these songs and have some good time, have a good time with it?
It's kind of threefold, to be honest with you. Number one, it reminds us why we do this. Mm-hmm. Skynyrd and ZZ Top, amazing. But bands like Cactus are criminally underrated. Mountains, criminally underrated. These bands, in my book, they're legends. Leslie West is a legend. Cactus, I freaking love Cactus. When Butch said that, I was so excited because I totally would have picked Cactus. I mean, I absolutely love them. And it's good to give these bands recognition. If you watched our video to Evil today, we made it a point to put old photos of Cactus in the video. Willie Dixon's in there. He wrote the song back in the 50s. Howlin' Wolf, the entire Chicago blues scene of the 50s from Chess Records, that's all represented. And at least in my mind, I wanted to pay tribute to these people who broke the ground for someone like me. And I'm the younger one in BPMD, and even my 8-year-old who came up with the idea. He's been to Chess Records with me. He took that tour with me. He understands the history of that. Not many kids do. I would say probably most don't. But it's good to, at least in my mind, it's good to pay tribute to people like this. And if you would have asked me on July 8th of last year if something like this would be created, I would have laughed, because July 9th it was. And it literally happened that fast.
Sure. Now, with it, Mark, with doing this project, what is the? And it's almost I could ask you the same question, I guess, with Metal Allegiance on some level. What is the end game for a project like this? Is it something where you put it together and you see where it goes and then it develops into its own thing?
I'm still trying to figure it out, man.
Because you know what I'm saying, though. Metal Allegiance sort of started this same way, where you guys were, just jamming, and then it sort of grew into its own monster. Is this
the same thing that happened with MA? In the summer of 2014, I gave up music altogether. I wanted to have nothing to do with performing, being in the business, being in the industry. I wanted nothing to do with it. I wanted to be a dad to my kids. I wanted to live a normal life, and in my little bubble in the sticks here in Long Island. I didn't want nothing to do with it. Okay. And it was my colleagues in MA of Portnoy and Elves, and I said, enough of your bullshit. Come on, let's, you did this previously with, organizing all those Metal Masters, and you're friends with these guys, respect you, and you did the hard part. You got everybody together, and you're just going to walk away. And there was, I had a lot of personal shit going on. Sure. And it just, for my own sense of clarity, I needed to find myself as a person. And I did that. And, Dave called me one day and he said, dude, Megadeth canceled off the motorboat, which was Motorhead's first cruise. He was like, let's get the gang back together. And I remember saying, what are we going to do? Jerk each other off on a fucking boat? What are we going to, we don't have anything. He's like, well, you told me about this thing called Metal Allegiance. It was an idea I came up with probably about a month or so prior. I started to toy with. He's like, now's the time. I'm like, not ready. This, that, and the other thing. And then he convinced me, and then he had Portnoy call, and then everyone's fucking calling me. And then within 24 hours, we're booked on Motorhead's motorboat for the first cruise. And then a month later, we're on that boat, just playing covers and having fun. And it was good to see everybody again, because for me, it's been a little bit. Because like I said, I took myself out of the music world altogether. And then on that boat, we were we kept circling this island because the boat couldn't dock in Key West because of a bad storm that was happening. And we kept circling and circling this island, and we were talking, hanging out, just sitting there, quarantined on a boat. Not much different than being quarantined here right now. And somebody said, and I believe it was Mike, who said, we should write a record together as Metal Allegiance. And just an offhand comment, and the conversation went away. And then after we did the second gig, the week went on. We did our gigs, and it was after the second gig I went up to Mike and I said, "You really think we could do a record as MA?" And he's like, "Absolutely." A few weeks later, what happens? Mike, Dave, Alex, and myself find ourselves at Portnoy's house, much like BPMD, and we wrote a record in about 4 days, and off we went. So it's very much the same thing where it's not planned. There was no, this is the game plan. We're going to do this month. We're going to do this next year. We're going to release it. It's man, we're flying off the fucking seat of our pants here with this, especially me. And if you would have asked me again 6 years ago or in the summer of 2014 if I would be behind two bands like this, I probably would have laughed. I still laugh at it because it's fucking funny. Yeah, I mean, I find it funny, and it's figuring as we go, man, and that's sometimes the best things in life are like that. And like I said earlier, I'm humbled by it. I'd never expected this, and especially me. I was the no name in all of this. I was the who's this asshole? Who's this guy? Who is he? Why is he on stage with all these legends? Why is he writing? Why is he doing this? He has no business up there. And I'm my own worst enemy with that. When I write, it's the same thing. The regimen I put myself through is fucking grueling. What I do, where nobody sees, where I'm constantly practicing to this day, hours a day, because if I'm going to be in a room with people like Mike and Alex, I better fucking deliver. And if you don't, I would be the first one to say, get your ass out. Even on stage when we play live shows, I'm always the most prepared, always. And Alex will be the first one to tell you that, because I take the set list and I'll play it a fucking million times. I will practice it, every nuance of it. So that way, again, on stage, if Alex or Mike or Gary Holt or someone fucks up, it's, whatever, it's okay. I fuck up, guess what's going to happen? At least that's the pressure I put on myself. I don't know if that would actually happen, but that's how I look at it. That's the pressure I put on myself. And I love it. I thrive off of that.
Sure.
And same thing with BPMD. It's, again, Blitz is a legend. Demo's fucking phenomenal. And Portnoy, I have that experience with him in writing. This is our fourth record together, Mike and I. So I have that experience with him. But again, it's, I have to give the best performance I possibly could give. And that was, my goal in recording at least my bass parts on this record, to do not only these songs justice, to give the best presentation as possible, to give integrity to those songs that they deserve. And again, it's the mind games I put myself through.
Sure. Let me ask what I'm going to assume is an obvious question. Maybe it's not. Don't take this as condescending, but you brought it up, so I'm going to go there. How is it that you are that guy? How is it that you have a phone full of Hall of Fame musicians? There's a million other guitar players out there, and I can promise you they would be happy to have Mike Portnoy's guitar or drum tech in their phone, let alone Mike Portnoy. You know what I mean? But you seemingly know everybody in that arena. How did you get to be that guy?
Well, there's not a day that goes by that I take that for granted. And again, completely humbled that they want to write with me or they want to perform with me and they want me to be that bass player, which is crazy. And again, humbled by it. In my former life and, prior to that summer of 2014, I worked in the music business, so I knew a lot of these dudes already. And Mike and Dave and I've known those guys forever. I've known the Anthrax guys, a long time. I've known a lot of these people for a long time, but I've never worked with them on a creative side. It's always been business. One day, and I think it was Mike, I don't know where we were, but he was like one of those dudes that was snooping around in my fucking notebook, and I write a lot of lyrics. He's like, "What the fuck is it?" He's like, "Are you kidding me?" And he's like, "Dude, write with us." And that's what MA. You know, when those first MA writing sessions, I had no intention on being a writer, or now what's considered the core four. I had zero intentions of that. And I got forced into it. And a lot of the music you hear on that first MA record's mine. Gift of Pain with Randy, all that music, and the majority of those lyrics I wrote. Let Darkness Fall. I mean, the list goes on, and it's just they tapped me, and I guess I was an untapped resource, if you will. And and they coerced me into that. And again, it's three MA records later, and the BPMD record. It's I don't take it for granted, and I still don't know why. I'm thankful for it.
Sure.
And I get calls every day. I get emails, calls, texts, social media. Hey, from a lot of people, can I jam with you? I'd like to guest on this and this and that and the other thing. And it's amazing, And again, I guess humbled is the word of the day, and it's pretty awesome.
Do you feel like maybe part of the reason too was that you were the one that could provide music that didn't have to have decisions made behind it? Like, Ellefson, obviously when he writes a part, he's got to think about Megadeth, and Portnoy has to think of one of his 43 bands that he's in. And where you were kind of an untapped resource that had ideas with nowhere to put them. So it kind of just was almost like a puzzle.
Great question. I don't know. I never thought about it that way. I do know one thing. I've always asked myself, and especially with Alex Skolnick, why the fuck doesn't Alex Skolnick write with Testament? Just the fucking riffs this dude lays down are insane.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember when we wrote, Alex and I wrote the song "The Accuser" together on the second MA record, and I remember after we wrote that, and I'm like, dude, this is fucking screaming Testament. And he goes, and I understand his point, and I totally respect Testament. Testament, Eric writes the music, Chuck writes the lyrics, and that works. Alex does all the lead work, and he writes the melodies and the lead work. They have a good formula. That's what the Testament formula is, and we all respect that. Alex has never, ever recorded rhythm guitars on record in his life before Metal Allegiance.
Wow, that's unbelievable.
Which I was shocked.
Yeah.
I was like, what listen to these fucking riffs.
Yeah.
And, so for Alex, I don't think he had to go to Testament or think about Testament. It's just what came out of him. Same thing with Dave. I'm not so sure if, I've never had the conversation with Dave going, hey, did you ever submit this to Dave? I never asked him. It's just, we get into a room and we write. I mean, it's just, we would just start jamming and fucking riffs would start flying out. And, with MA and that first record, I brought 4 songs to the table. Here you go, here's 4 songs. You do what you will with them. And, the 4 songs made it. Those 4 songs musically and lyrically, I probably write a good bulk of the lyrics. I mean, there's a lot of them that I write. And as Alex puts it, they're novels. And then they just go through the editing process. So, whether I'm untapped or not, I never thought about that.
Nice, yeah. Well, just going back to BPMD real quick, Mark. Obviously, when you do a whole album full of covers, it could be a tricky thing. A lot of people don't like covers, some do, but especially when it comes to the bands and musicians that you are covering. I mean, I think it's great you guys put that metallic signature on all these tracks. Because, I mean, these bands were a precursor to metal, and they were very, extremely instrumental in its success, and it had a major influence, obviously, on the musicians like yourself and the rest of the guys. The funny thing is that a good amount of those bands and musicians from the 70s, they hate being associated with the term heavy metal.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So have you guys received any reaction thus far from these bands that you've covered, or the musicians on the record? Have they given you their thumbs up or thumbs down or anything? Have you gotten any reaction yet?
Yeah, Ted Nugent loved it. He,
awesome.
he actually fucking called it brilliant. Michael Anthony loved it. Buck Dharma from Blue Oyster Cult, Corky Wang from Mountain, Carmine from Cactus, Billy Gibbons from ZZ Top fucking loved it. He called it rash and groovalicious. Billy Gibbons is a fucking hero of mine. I mean, that dude is seriously legend upon legend. That guy, and for him to not only hear what we did, but to offer some words, it's crazy, and and it's great. And you said precursor to metal, listen to the original song by Mountain, Never in My Life, and you tell me that riff is not fucking
straight up metal.
Tell me that's not metal, and I'll tell you crazy.
I agree with you, man. Absolutely.
And they've heard them, and Mark Foreigner heard American Band and loved it, and it's crazy that these guys are. And I don't know these people. It's pretty crazy, and it's definitely awesome.
So, Mark, talk about, if there is any, the fear is the wrong word, but it's the only word that's coming to my mind right now. The fear or the thought of doing Van Halen's DOA and having your playing compared to the guy that is pretty arguably the best player in the history of the guitar.
Van Halen is one of those bands that you shouldn't fucking touch. Right. And I told Demmel that. That's Phil Demmel pick. Right, and I was like, listen, man, we can't argue it. That's the rule we made. We have to do it. Just be sure you fucking deliver, and be sure you're comfortable with this. And he said the greatest thing. I don't give a fuck what anyone thinks. I'm having fun with this. And I was like, perfect. And that was basically the mission statement. You know what? Fans are not going to like these songs. Some fans are they're gonna go, why are these guys doing a cover record? It's not. This is not a financial project. We didn't even have a record label. We self-financed the entire goddamn thing. The four of us got together. We paid the recording costs. We paid to have it mixed and mastered. I personally paid the artwork. We all paid out of our pocket to do this. It was never about money. It was about four dudes getting together in a room, drinking some beers, and having fun. And that is it. That is the extent of what this was meant to be, and what it still is to this day. People are gonna, you know how it is. I'm the first one. We've all done it. I don't like that cover. We've all said it. We've all done it.
Right.
So we understand that people are going to say that, and you know what? That's okay. That's fine. It's not meant for that. It was meant for us to, you know what? We're doing this for ourselves to have fun. It was an idea from a summertime barbecue that we just happened to get together, hit the record button, and we recorded live, and that's what you're hearing. You're hearing the energy of us of just having fun, and something like Van Halen. Again, I agree with you. It's one of those bands you don't touch, but I believe Phil did a fucking phenomenal job.
Sure.
Playing it. I think he did that song justice. Me for myself, I've never learned a Van Halen song in my life, so I've never played one before. That was the first time I've ever learned. I've obviously heard the song before, but that was the first time I learned that, and I went into it going, shit, how would I do this? Again, keeping the integrity intact.
Right.
And same thing with Blitz. He never thought in a million years he would sing a David Lee Roth song. He was the first one to laugh at all of us. He's like, how the fuck am I going to do this? But that's the beauty. It challenges you as a musician.
Sure.
Playing music that you never thought you would play, and then trying to put your spin on it and have it sound good. And that was the beauty of it.
Yeah, and it's weird with that song because you would think that all the focus would go to the guitar, but for me listening to it, you nailed it right on the head. Hearing Blitz singing Roth was like, wow, that's different.
yeah, exactly. Even like the fucking James Gang song, we did it's funny with the James Gang version that we did. Portnoy, when we were at Mike's house arranging and getting this shit together, he played us the Van Halen demo from that Pasadena club days of them covering this. So we did that version of Walk Away. We did the Van Halen cover of the cover of it. And just to add some up-tempo, and again, we went into it going, shit, that completely changes the whole thought, because I never heard that version of the song. I know the original was ingrained in me. So again, I had to completely re-alter, and so did Blitz, how we were going to, perform and present this on a recorded version. And, and Mike's good for that. He's good for throwing curveballs at you.
Nice. Yeah, well, I'm glad you guys did play a Joe Walsh song. I'm a huge Joe Walsh fan, man. I love his solo stuff, the James Gang, the Barnstorm stuff, man. Love all that stuff, man. Very underrated. Another guy who doesn't get – everyone just thinks of him as being with the Eagles, and they don't really understand the catalog that he's got, the back catalog he has, yeah.
Again, that's why I wear a Joel Walsh shirt in our press photos. I'm wearing a Joel Walsh shirt, man. He's one of my favorite guitar players ever. And,
absolutely. Also, just one last question I got for you, Mark. The name BPMD, it sounds very familiar. I don't know if it's just a coincidence or not, but it sounds very familiar to another band from Long Island that's not rock, that was around in the 90s. EPMD. Did it have anything to do with that or no? No. It's just the one. We wanted to go down the ELP route, Emerson, Lake and Palmer, CSM, Crosby, Stills, Nash Young, BBA, Beck, Bargard, Appice. We wanted an acronym with our names, and we juggled and mishmashed and put all the letters together many different ways, and BPMD is the one that kind of rolled off the tongue. Nice.
So we just went with that.
Awesome, man. Well, hey, we're going to wrap it up here, Mark. Thanks, really for a bunch for coming on and, to the podcast and talking to us about the new metal supergroup project called BPMD, American Made. It comes out June 12th on Napalm Records. I can't wait to pick this one up, and, hopefully we'll speak to you the next time you put together your third supergroup. That's cool.
I appreciate it, man.
All right, Mark. Take care, man.
Hey, guys. Thanks. And be safe out there.
You too. Thanks a lot.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to Aftershocks. For more episodes, go to our website at www.aftershockspodcast.com. Visit us on our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter pages for more news and information on the podcast. And be sure to subscribe, listen to, and review all episodes on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and all other podcast platforms. For your music listening pleasure, visit our website or go to www.shockwavesradio.com. For all comments and questions, please email us at info@aftershockspodcast.com.